It's throughout the country. At first, GMAC had said we're going after 23 states. Those 23 states were all states that are called judicial foreclosure states, which means the court handles it. Whereas the remaining 27, it just has to do with, it's a kind of a procedural, bureaucratic sort of thing. Courts aren't involved. But now there are investigations, whether it's state attorneys general or some kind of financial regulator in all 50 states. They've been late to the game, but enthusiastic about it, which means that, a lot of us were reporting on these issues earlier this year, in the summer of this year, or leading into the fall, and legislators were kind of, I had reached out to some of them, and they didn't want to touch it with the 10-foot pole. But when it became this sort of huge headline issues in the Washington Post, in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, they started sending letters, they demanded investigations, they demanded investigators, special investigators. So that's great to see, because they're actually seizing on the issue a little bit. Could it have come a little sooner? Sure. In terms of the economy in general, it's really, there's no good solution to this. Two big banks, GMAC and Bank of America, have said, no, we're going to keep doing these again. But even if there were a broader, say, moratorium on foreclosures in place, that puts the housing market, which is a huge part of the national economy, in a bad place, because it means, this whole mess of figuring out who should be foreclosed on, who shouldn't, really getting to basically the bottom of the housing market's woes is going to be delayed. And with the losses to Wall Street, that $70 billion number used with Bank of America, I think that was kind of a worst case scenario, but it goes to show how much is at stake here. If it had been in place for the last, say, 5 years, it hopefully would have caught a lot of the issues that are coming to light now, a lot of the problems. I wrote about this in our January issue, was that the mortgage companies that are getting slammed right now, the regulation of them is almost non-existent. The crisis has kind of shone a light on what banks had done, in the name of speed and keeping things as cheap as possible to foreclose on people, and we've sort of seen now the lengths they'll go to, squeeze every dime that they can out of this process. Personally, right now I'm working on a story that it looks at, okay, so what was the fix that they put into place that supposedly make things better? Well, that fix doesn't turn out to be much of a fix at all. They basically have said, yeah, well, there was that filing that, that we found out was kind of phony. Well, just trust us. And they're going to try to go ahead with the foreclosure anyway.